Hi, welcome to the coffee table. I'm all alone on my sofa, welcoming you to my show. To the new and improved, COVID-safe coffee table. I clap for myself and my team. You know, it's still new, so I'm still really sort of, as you can see, taken by the fact that we're doing all of this. So I'm really excited. You know, I'm always excited, but whenever we are talking to authors about their books and about what to do in the process of writing, you know, I really feel like these are times when the coffee table comes alive in the imagination. So today it is my great pleasure to, from a distance, welcome Awais Khan and Sara Naveed to the show. Hello, friends, virtually to the coffee table. It's wonderful
It's
to
really
see
nice
both
to
of
be here.
you. Yay! I'm very excited. And you know, Awais, you are old hat at this because you've been running this wonderful online writing show and having conversations with all sorts of interesting people. And I think that your wallpaper has now become quite legendary and you can never change it.
I know it has, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's become the look now.
Yeah,
I think Awais has pretty much interviewed everyone on his live show. It was really incredible.
yeah,
Except for me.
more or less.
Yeah,
I was planning on it. Then COVID came up and
I
uske baad
know,
band
it's
karna
true.
pada.
That's true. He did message me. He's like, do you want to come on? I'm like, yes, please, ask me.
No problem. I think he has listed you for his second season.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
save something for later also now. Quite
Save the
right.
best for the last.
Yes. No, looks like I'll have to wait a long time now. So, Awais,
I mean,
so I want to sort of dive right in. So, Sara, you've, you know, I said that you're a new kid on the block. Actually, not very true, because you are the accomplished writer of 5 romance novels now. Am I correct? Is it 5? Four. You know, I think 5, I'm like, she's writing a 5th, so I can read it. 4 romance novels, and the last one, All of My Heart, came out in 2018.
Yes.
Yes.
All of My Heart came out in 2018, and then The World Between Us came out in February 2020. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's the one that I missed. Oh. So that's come out just now. That's fantastic. Like, that is so prolific because you have a full-time job, you work in IT, you're doing like these amazing things, you're a boss lady in IT, and then you're also a romance novelist by night and IT professional by day, which I love that. That is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a very obvious question as to how did you come to writing romance?
You know, I've been asked this question frequently, and I don't even remember for how many times I've been answering to the same question.
Sorry.
I've always been it's okay. I've always been a romance fan since I was a kid. I still remember I was a toddler and my dad made me sit in front of the TV, and there was a movie, a Bollywood movie, if I quote the name as well, it was Maine Pyar Kiya.
Yes.
So he made me watch that movie, and I was just looking at it, you know, trying to see the faces and trying to understand what was all happening in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think that was the triggering point for me, and that what sort of made me, you know, like romance movies. And then, of course, when I liked the genre, I started reading romance books. And there were a couple of authors whose work I was really inspired by. So that was a starting point for me. I started writing fan fictions, and people, you know, they loved it. So yeah, that's how I realized that maybe it's time for me to write something on my own.
I love that. And what kind of fan fiction were you writing?
I still remember I was a big Bollywood buff back then, and I had a few favorite Bollywood celebrities.
Yeah.
So keeping them in mind, keeping them as my main characters, I wrote a story about them. It was a Bollywood movie forum, and it was a place where most fan fiction writers came and, you know, uploaded their stories, and I was one of them. And within days, I realized that the popularity of the fan fiction story, it just increased. And that really boosted my confidence as a writer, as a newbie writer.
Like, I
so
feel
yeah,
like
that was this.
Fan fiction forums have been such interesting springboards for a lot of different people to explore their writing. And maybe in a way, it's also kind of comforting because you already have the structure of the work or the character that you want to write about? Like, I know that, for example, the 50 Shades of Grey series came out of fan fiction as well. I think it was a Twilight, it was Twilight fan fiction, and then it turned into a thing on its own. And I want to sort of circle back to this in terms of process and where the sort of, you know, different approaches to writing. And I feel it's really important because you and Awais are both people who are looking at writing and publishing with this really fresh perspective. And I feel like that the world has also changed so much in the past few years, and the publishing world has changed so much. And I think that it's really important to sort of, you know, talk about how we're supposed to adjust with it. And we're also in that sort of particular space where our writing in English, the scene isn't extremely developed. So I feel like we haven't really gotten the hang of the old way, and now we have a new way to do it. And I feel like, Awais, I think that you've really sort of understood how to do that. But before that, I want to talk about In the Company of Strangers, which is your debut work. And this came out last year, if I'm not mistaken, 2019.
Yeah, it came out in July in the UK last year, but it just came out in April in Pakistan.
In Pakistan, yeah. And it's being published by Liberty here, but in the UK it was published by Simon & Schuster, which is very cool.
No, so it was published in the UK by this indie publisher called the Book Guild, but in India it was published by Simon & Schuster.
Oh,
so, yeah,
okay.
3 publishers.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's hard to keep track of all of them. You know, Sara is just a straightforward Penguin India. Bas, we know it. But it's so exciting because these are big publishers. These are big names. And I feel really proud of both of you because, you know, if you know, audience, if you Google these guys, you'll find their books on Kindle. And like for me, I'm just like, Kindle, it feels so international, you know. You're like, yeah, we've got like Pakistani writers and anybody in the world can just read their work. It is awfully exciting. So Awais, tell me about Strangers. How did you come to it?
So, yeah. Well, with Strangers, the thing is that I always wanted to write about an aspect of Pakistan that's not often written about. So I don't know, most of the literature I was reading about Pakistan was very grim and depressing. So I thought, why not write about the high society that actually exists in Pakistan? A lot of people think that Pakistan is all about poverty and, you know, ramshackle homes and all of that. But, you know, I wanted to show that this side of it also existed in Pakistan. So that was the whole motivation behind writing In the Company of Strangers. And then the characters just took root and, you know, the rest is sort of history.
You know, the rest is this book. I'd be sad that I don't have a book of Sara's to show you guys because it's all out of stock. People just bought all the copies and I've read everything on a Kindle. So, you know, good job, Sara. So, you write and you're working on your second book as well, but you also run the Writing Institute. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so that also started because when I returned, I went to the UK in 2016 and I took an editing course. So that I really liked it. So when I came back to Pakistan, I realized that there's absolutely nothing here.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, why not? If there's nothing here, then maybe I should start it. So, you know, so that's where the Writing Institute came up and how it came up. And it's done really well. I was actually a bit hesitant at first. I thought that people might not be interested in creative writing in Pakistan, but it's been really surprising. I mean, I know the writing room is also teaching creative writing. So that's only other institution that I know of in Pakistan. But I'm really surprised and I'm pleasantly surprised that, you know, people have taken really well.
So do you get, what's the sort of age of people who want to work with the Writing Institute?
You know, the funny thing is that I get people from all ages. So we have, for the adult courses that I have, so we have people like from 18 onwards and even people in their 80s, they join the courses. So, you know, it's like a very varied sort of, it's really nice. And a lot of women who are like a lot of housewives, even a lot of men who are like, you know, taking a break from their career. So they want to explore their creative side. So yeah, it's really fun. You know, the fact that I get people from all walks of life.
That's really great. And the reason why I'm really interested in this is that there was always, I think, this sense that a lot of people approached English in an academic way, where you would maybe get English tutoring to kind of help you write an essay so that you could answer an exam well. And the whole idea of writing was basically, it wasn't really for fun or for pleasure or even for art. It was more a sort of utilitarian thing, because obviously it's not the first language for many people in Pakistan. And yet we kind of see this shift where people are now beginning to consider writing as an actual viable thing that they can do. And do you feel that a lot of people who come to you, do you think it's more of a hobby, or are some of them actually serious about doing this in a sort of focused way?
This is a very important issue that you've raised. I think to some extent, social media is also responsible for that. People have a greater awareness of what publishing is, and they follow all these Insta accounts of Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster, and they're like, what's the process behind it? And they're all avid readers, obviously. So they're like, what if we wrote something, and how would we get it published? So that sort of, I think, that spurs their interest, and that's what brings them to my institute. And they're like, the first thing they ask me is that how do we get our books published? I'm like, if only it were that easy.
That is a very complex question, and I am going to ask you to address, both of you to address it after this very quick break. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table. We're talking to our very own amazing authors, Sara, Naveed, and Awais Khan, about writing and publishing and, being the next hot thing on the scene. So, Sara, tell me, do you have a sort of background in writing? Because I know that Awais took courses and now teaches it. But did you sort of do any kind of writing workshops or courses or anything like that?
No, honestly, I haven't. I haven't signed up for any writing course, and I haven't even studied English literature or any linguistics subject. Yeah. But yeah, it was still, it was my passion towards writing that led me towards this field. Yeah. And I'm equally proud and happy about it. But now sometimes I feel that I must have taken up something. Maybe it could have helped me improve my craft or something like that. But I guess that also comes with experience and time. So I think with experience and with time, I have certainly matured as a writer. That's what my editor also feels. And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I would agree, actually. And I think it's also been interesting and maybe challenging for Pakistani writers or people with an interest in writing that there weren't any courses and there weren't any workshops and stuff that, like maybe younger people now have access to because of, for example, courses like the ones that Awais is running. That now they have access, but for a lot of us, we're all self-taught, and you kind of felt your way around it. And in a way, I think maybe, do you feel like writing the fan fiction was like actually a really good kind of step towards seeing how far your voice could go? Or do you get feedback on fan fiction and stuff? How does that work?
Yes, definitely. It's like a forum where you have different users and different members. So when you post, suppose you're posting a chapter or an episode. So when you post that, people start reacting towards it. They start posting their comments, and they give you feedback. And that has really helped me, encouraged me towards this profession. Yeah. So if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have taken up writing as my passion or something as my profession even. Yeah. So yeah, I think the feedback really helped me back then. And this is the time that I'm talking about, around 15 years back, 15 or 16 years back. Yeah. So at that time, I don't think I had any access towards any writing course, but I'm happy nowadays. Young writers, they can take up courses from institutes like the one Awais is running, and there's the writing room as well. So people are really lucky they have such resources with them.
No, it's true. But I think so basically what I'm sort of understanding is that the fan fiction and the forum experience was basically your work was being workshopped by fellow writers. And that is a really great evolutionary sort of thing for your work to experience, is the feedback of other people whose opinion that you trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awais,
that was the main driver.
So Awais, do you feel like that by doing some kind of formal writing training, do you feel that you found that community through your course?
Yes, I think it's very important, and a lot of people believe that writing is innate, but I think that it can also be learned. So when I took the paper course, the first one that I took was the 6-month online novel writing course.
Right.
And that literally changed my life, because the stuff I learned on that course and the friendships I made, they're still going strong. And, even though we hadn't met at that time, I mean, I met them all when I went to London in 2016, but we even hadn't met, and yet we were critiquing each other's work and offering feedback. And I think that really, got me into writing in the first place and made me finish my novel. So you're right. I think fan fiction is also a perfect way to get free feedback.
Yeah. So as a writer, and I'm just now sort of steering this around, is that it doesn't necessarily matter whether you are in a creative writing course or you've done workshops or you haven't. The important thing is to have a community of people, even if it's 2 or 3 people, whose opinion you trust, and you have to show work to people, and you have to get feedback on it, and it has to be a kind of collaborative process. Yes? Do you think you'd agree? Either of you?
Yeah, I think
Yes,
a writing community is very. But then, it's also important that there's some basics that you must know about creative writing, and that's what I learned when I took the Faber course, the online one. That there's a certain way of approaching things. Obviously, everyone has their own style and everything, but there are certain basic things that you can learn in courses, and that's what I try to inculcate in my students as well.
Yeah, and especially if you are a beginner and again are making the leap, sort of stories for school maybe, or stories that you wrote for yourself, and that's the sort of difference between a beginner and somebody who's more sort of heading in a more professional direction, is then that you get to begin to polish your work. And sort of one part of that polish is having an editor. But then where do you get an editor from?
Editors are very expensive, you see. I was very fortunate because
and nobody reads your work for free, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you shouldn't ask people to do it either. Yeah? You shouldn't ask people, can you just read my work and have a look at it.
I guess it doesn't. There's such emails from people who are asking me to read. So I do try to read as much as I can, but I think having an editor is incredibly important, and getting one is very difficult as well. I was very lucky early on because I found Hazel Orm.
Where did you find her, Awais? Because I think these are questions a lot of people have, is that, I know that I should have this person, but then where do I find them?
Okay, so I was referred to Hazel by a friend of mine, a writer friend. Again, it was on the Faber Academy course.
Yeah.
So she referred me to Hazel, and that's how she took me on. But these days it's become very easy. There's this amazing UK company called the Literary Consultancy, TLC. So they sort of, they get you in touch with an editor, and they're doing an amazing job. I mean, they are a bit expensive when you consider it in Pakistani rupees, but they're great.
Exchange rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's worth it. So Sara, what about you? How did you get an editor?
Honestly, when I was writing my first book, when I had finished the first draft, there was an English professor in my university, and I really begged him to read my book. Please read my book and see if there are some errors or any mistakes. Then he told me that I'd only look for grammatical mistakes and see if your sentences are correct. And I said, please give it a read. And he took 6 months to give me feedback on my book. So that was the time duration that I had to wait. Yeah. Because he was doing it for free, like I said. If I had given him some money, and he would have done it sooner. But he was the first person to give me feedback on my book. And later on I self-edited it and tried my best to, bring it in the best shape as possible. Yes. Since I was self-publishing it, so I did not require the services of a professional editor. But obviously, when my second book happened, the editor was assigned to me by Penguin India. Yes. So the rest was really, really easy for me.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So how did Penguin India happen? Because I know that Awais has an agent, and we will talk about that in a second. But do you have an agent? I don't know if this is a personal question to ask writers. Is it? Do you have an agent?
I have an agent at that point. Although I looked for a lot of literary agencies, both in South Asia as well as UK and America, but I didn't see anything coming from them. So I looked for one in India, and I sent her my manuscript, And she told me she'd get back to me soon. And then I totally forgot about her. And somehow that same literary agent who was in India, she also happened to be working with Penguin India at some point. She had left Penguin India, and then she forwarded my manuscript to the one who was currently working in in Penguin India at that time. So I never realized that she would actually refer my book to someone else. Yeah, exactly.
That's
and one day, the editor from Penguin India she just sent me an email, and she told me that someone referred me your work, and I would like to read the rest of the book as well. Because I'd only sent her the first 3 sample chapters. So she read the book and she liked it, and she offered me a contract. So I think luck has also played some part in it.
That's fantastic. That's so exciting. And Awais, I think I remember bumping into you many years ago at The Last Word, and you were like, I've just got an agent. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But I know that your agent is somebody based in the UK. So what does an agent do? Why is it good to have an agent?
So the agents are really good because they're like the gatekeepers of the publishing world. And the publishers in the UK and US, all the big ones, they will not take you on. They do not take on unsolicited manuscripts. So if I go and approach Penguin UK or like Simon Schuster UK, they will not entertain my manuscript. So it has to come through an agent. So that's what agents do. And in addition to that, they also look after a lot of other things. So they will be hunting for TV deals, movie deals, and they'll be hunting for foreign deals, like in Eastern Europe or Central or Western Europe or Brazil, South America. So they're constantly on the hunt, and because they make their money out from the commission they get, like a writer gets advance. So they get a commission from the advance. So that's why their vision is totally focused on getting a writer money so that they can earn money as well. So that's why it's like a win-win situation.
Quite right. And do you have to pay an a fee also, or is it just based on their commission? So the more they sell your book, the more they make.
And that's another very pertinent point you've raised, Mina. I think I want to make it clear right now that if an agent asks you for money, that means they're not an agent at all. Agents never ask for money upfront. So if someone is asking you that, then they're not a real agent. So agents only make their money from commission. So
right, that's something that's one of those things that we wouldn't have known if it weren't for seasoned authors on the show. We're going to take a very quick break and come back in 1 second. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table. We're talking to hotshot writers Sara, Naveed and Awais Khan today about the nitty-gritties of publishing and the publishing world. And I'm so happy that I can pick your brains, both of you, because these are questions that people tend to ask me, but I don't have an editor or an agent or a published book with any big publishers, so I feel like they should just watch this show instead. So, Sara, tell me, what is it like to be a romance novelist? I think it's so fantastic. I don't know anybody else who writes romance. And I feel like there's always this idea also that, if you are writing books, then there should be serious books that talk about serious things. But why? I grew up, I still read romance novels and I enjoy them immensely. And I don't know why it's never occurred to me to write one. Actually, it has, truth be told. But I'm thrilled.
So what was your question exactly?
Sorry, yes, so sort of. My main question is, how do people respond when you tell them that you are a romance novelist?
I think people, if I talk about my readers in Pakistan, they're more into, history or fantasy. They're more like Harry Potter fans. And I believe I found more romance readers in India and other countries as compared to Pakistan. My editor from Penguin India calls me the queen of romance because she thinks I write great romance stories.
You do, it's true.
Yeah. So I don't think I have seen any romance writer in Pakistan apart from the ones who are writing in Urdu fiction.
Yes,
there's
it's only you.
Mera Ahmed. Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't met anyone, but
neither have I.
My writing has certainly inspired a lot of young writers, and they are coming up to me and they're asking me questions. We loved your work, and we would also like to write a romance book one day. So they're, taking tips from me every day. every other day. So it feels great to inspire a lot of young writers.
It's really
and honestly,
wonderful.
it feels great to be a romance writer.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd like to feel that I'm lucky enough to be the only one Pakistan writer, and that's what makes my work more popular.
It is. It's very special. And Awais, your book is sort of technically more mainstream in that respect because it deals with a lot of, I don't want to box it into a box by saying it's more serious, but it is a more the genre is completely different. So do you feel that as, and I know that a lot of writers feel kind of annoyed by the label, like in the UK, for example, it's BAME, B-A-M-E, so British, Asian, like basically writers of color. So do you sometimes feel like it's restrictive? Do you feel like foreign audiences are looking for a very specific kind of writing coming out of this part of the world or from writers of color?
I think you're absolutely right. Once again, you nailed it, Mina. So the thing is that, I find it very, I don't like these being boxed up and I don't like these labels at all. I think books should be for everyone. So why say that, this particular book is from a BAME author? What does that even mean? I mean, I just don't understand. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why we are not getting mainstream success, because we get boxed up as a BAME author, and a lot of people are like, why should we read about a BAME author? So, the fact that now publishing is sort of waking up to this, and books are being marketed as they are, rather than it being a BAME book or a white book or a whatever book. So yeah, I think it's sort of, I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's a good thing to label attach a label to things.
Yeah. So also, one thing I noticed is that recently I feel like a lot of writers are much more active on social media. And I know that I've spoken to some publishers, and they do sort of have said that they do want authors and writers to be active and have a social presence, because that kind of like is like establishing your own market. And for me, that's interesting because, you have this image of the writer who is a solitary person who's writing, and that's the main focus that they have is their work and just doing what they love, which is the work. And the promotional stuff is something that the agent, for example, should be doing, or the publishing company should be doing your launch and whatever. But it seems to me that now a lot of writers are much more personally involved in putting their book out there. So do you feel like now there's also like the cult of the writer also? Like you have to be a personality yourself also?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, because that is what I was told when I was picked up in the UK, that I had to do work as well. I had to build a social media presence. That's what my agent told me immediately after the deal, that go and make your author account and start promoting your work, because that's how indies work. So especially independent publishers, they want the author to be involved in every aspect of the publishing and the marketing process. And I forgot to answer a part of your question earlier, that yes, people have certain expectations with Pakistani authors. So, I remember that people in the UK or the US, they have this expectation that Pakistani novels should be dealing with terrorism. So when my agent was submitting my book to UK publishers, a lot of them said that the book is very regional. So they didn't want to read about the high society of Pakistan. They're like, that won't sell. But, just goes to show that they were wrong, because the book done really well in the UK, despite being published by an independent publisher. So,
That's really important. And I'm really happy that, because maybe it's a sort of like a chicken and egg situation, where if you don't write the kind of, you don't want to write about terrorism, so you don't, and then a publisher can see that, oh, well, actually, you can have a compelling story that doesn't necessarily involve X, Y, or Z tropes that we are, used to. But Sara, as somebody who is kind of, you are groundbreaking, because you are the only person writing romance in Pakistan in English. Do you ever feel a little sort of constrained, awkward when you're sort of, because you're writing about love and relationships, and do you ever feel like a little self-conscious about it? Because we're all still a little bit like,
yeah, people are still tight-lipped about certain intimate matters, and when it comes to love stories. When my first book was out, I did include a few intimate scenes in the book, and people were really not happy about that. And they said, you're a Muslim, They bring religion into fiction and they say you're Muslim, you're a female author. Why would you write such scenes? Please delete them from your book. So yeah, I did receive a lot of negative feedback on such scenes. So with my second book, I was more conscious. I had to keep this in mind. Even if I wanted to write something freely, I couldn't. I was feeling restrained. So yeah, it was a conscious decision of not writing too much about intimacy and only focusing on, normal writing normal love scenes. Then,
because that is something
I did feel a place.
Yeah, that is something I noticed, that it was like, PG-10, the books, which is great also. But, it is, the genre is such that, and it's ironic because we read, a lot of romance novels that we read coming in from the West are sort of very different in the way that they pan out. So there's obviously an audience for it, but it's just interesting to see the sort of various limitations that authors have or don't have depending on the genre that they write. So do you feel like there's obviously a market for it? And I think that personally that it's really nice to see brown people represented in the genre. And it's really nice to see our names and to have, couples worrying about relationships. And you talk about a lot of things in your books. Characters who get widowed really early on, struggling families. In All of My Heart, Qais loses his mom as a child and how he sort of deals with that. So do you feel like you're able to kind of really, it's a kind of social commentary, do you think? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think when I'm writing something, it's not only about romance. I try to explore even different themes, serious themes in my books. If you talk about my recent book, I tried to write something, touch the subjects of mental health as well. Because the main character was dealing with some sort of depression. He had a dark past. So it's not only about, lovey-dovey scenes or you're reading about some, only romance. It's not only about romance. It's about the stories. It's about how characters evolve. It's about their backstories. So people really get excited when they get to read such kind of stories from brown people because they're used to reading romances from, in the West. They would be very comfortable reading an E.L. James book. They would read
or like Daniel Steele or Jackie Collins or, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and yet they will enjoy what they're writing, even if they're writing intimate scenes. But when they're reading my book, they will judge me differently.
Yeah,
so
and
that
you also use your own name. And you're not writing with the pseudonym, it's you're on the cover. Although I do want to see you have a super glamorous cover photo next time, like the whole Jackie Collins look. Oh gosh. See, again, I'm stereotyping you, but it's still fun.
But I just wanted to add that that's one thing I like about Sara's work, that it's so relatable, and when you read her books, seeing Pakistani names and all of that, it's really nice.
Yeah, and I think that it's really important to remember, just because you're writing a genre that's not your typical idea of what literature should look like, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have weight and that it doesn't have something to say, like if it's fantasy, if it's romance. And I think maybe that's why we try and be ultra serious about our content, because we feel like that we want to be taken seriously by writing those things. But there's validity in all different kinds of genres and all different kinds of writing. So, Awais, what was your favorite scene in Strangers? What was like your favorite part? What was writing it, let's say?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. But I think I really enjoyed writing about. I really enjoyed writing the first chapter when the four friends are sitting together and having tea and discussing and gossiping, and they've just heard about a bomb blast going off in Lahore and they're least bothered about that. And all they're focused on are
the shawls
and what parties that are happening and all of that. So yeah, I really enjoyed writing it because I've seen it happen firsthand.
And in a way, it's really cool to, again, to say, write what you know and write what feels is familiar to you. And you can see that it feels authentic when you do that. And you're not trying to pretend to be more serious or, sort of the ideal writer that the publisher wants. You should just be yourself. So what advice would both of you give to aspiring authors? And sorry, I'm sure this is a question you get asked a lot, but some sort of just one practical nugget that, you know, they could take into their writing practice?
Want them to know that they shouldn't give up on their dream. If they want to become a writer, then they just need to focus on that thing, and they should never give up writing. And you know, some writers are really confused when they start writing. They start thinking about the publishing process first, and most of the question that I get asked is, how do I get my work published? And then I ask, have you written something? At that point, they have not written anything, but they're still worried about getting published. So they shouldn't focus on the publishing aspect. They should first focus on their writing, and they should read a lot of books, especially of the genre they are interested to write in. Keep reading and never give up on your dream. That's the advice that I mostly give to all of my aspiring writers.
Yeah. And what about you, Awais?
Well, I think Sara took all of my advice as well. Basically, yeah, I agree with her that it's so important to read. A lot of people just don't read, and they say that, you know, we want to get published. The first step of getting published is to read. So that's one step. And, you know, secondly, I'd say that, you know, observe. So observe the people around you, your family, your friends, you know, look at their mannerisms, the way they behave. Some people like to, you know, gesture a lot. Some people tap their foot while talking. Some people frown a lot. So use that in your writing, you know. That's how writing happens. It comes from observation. So that's another major point. And that's how you can, you know, make your characters believable, by sort of basing it on personal observation. So, and thirdly, obviously, don't give up ever, no matter what anyone tells you.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because a lot of times, you know, and I'm sure, like, for example, Sara, you work, you have a IT career as well, and a lot of people might have told you that, well, you know, what is the thing that you're just kind of doing? All right, it's a hobby, but it's clearly not a hobby. You know, you are an accomplished career woman, and even with Awais, I know that your second novel is done, nearly done, soon to be done.
Out to publishers in the UK, so yeah, fingers crossed.
Exactly, so you can do it, and thank you so much, both of you, on the show and sharing so much vital information and such sensible, practical suggestions for aspiring writers in our midst. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to read and don't give up on your dreams, which I think is like the best advice ever. It might sound sort of like rainbows and fluff, but it's actually true. You know, so keep doing that. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we will see you next time on the coffee table. Bye now.